Welcome to Haunted Dorset. Today, we're exploring strange stories that occurred in the delightful villages collectively known as the Winterbornes. Interestingly, there are 14 Winterborne named locations within the county. There are in fact two rivers called Winterborne in Dorset, each of them giving name to several settlements along their banks. The South Winterborne is a tributary of the River Frome, whereas the more northerly Winterborne being a tributary of the River Stour. The name means winter stream, meaning a river that flows most strongly during the winter months. The word comes from the Old English Winterburne. First, we will look at a tale from Winterborne, Kingston, found on the banks of the northern Winterborne River. It's located 7 miles south of Blandford Forum and 2 miles northeast of Bear Regis. It's situated in a Winterborne valley near the Dorset Downs dip slope. The parish encompasses Kingston in the western two-thirds, Turberville, later Abbott's Court Farm, to the east, and the hamlet of Winterborne Muston further east. The River Winterborne, a seasonal tributary of the River Stour, runs through the village. The name Kingston indicates royal land ownership, while Bourne is Old Dorset for river. Icknield Street, an ancient route later used by Romans, passes through the village. Roman artifacts have been found in local fields. In 2015, archaeologists discovered remains of what may be Britain's oldest planned town nearby, dubbed Duropolis, after the Iron Age Durotriges tribe. However, our focus isn't on the village's rich history. Instead, we're exploring a more intriguing possibility. Did a local witness an encounter with ghostly inhabitants of a ruined manor, or perhaps a slip in time? Let's delve into the details of this mysterious event. In 1987, during a ghost club visit to the New Forest, an intriguing tale from Richard Shepherd was recorded, a former Bournemouth Town Council member. The story, originally from an elderly source that Shepherd had personally met, was shared with the club with his permission. Referring to his original written document, I will paraphrase its contents. The events took place in September 1935. The narrator, then a 15-year-old farm boy at Thompson Farm near Winterborne, Kingston, was known as the Village Boy. His duties included a twice-weekly night ride to Winterborne, Kingston, to collect prescriptions from the elderly, then to Bear Regis to fetch medicines, before returning to make deliveries. One particular night, he was tasked with delivering an urgent message to a distant farm, informing relatives of a dying villager. This extended his usual journey by up to 2 hours. After completing this task around 11 or 11:30 p.m., he began his return journey under a brilliant harvest moon on a hot, tranquil night. Tired from his long day, he cycled slowly. Passing what appeared to be the drive of an old manor house he'd heard about, he detected faint music. Curious, he dismounted and walked towards the sound. He found himself on a well-maintained lawn with a central fountain, its water glistening in the moonlight. There, he encountered a young boy in luxurious attire, adorned with shining buttons and expensive shoes, carrying or wearing a bejeweled sword at his side. The source of the music was revealed to be a young boy playing a violin. The farm lad noticed the boy's large feathered hat. There was an otherworldly quality to the scene that made the observer sweat. Yet his curiosity kept him rooted. He retreated into the shadows, observing silently. Suddenly, The young violinist paused and locked eyes with the farm boy. After a brief stare, the elegantly dressed youth set down his instrument, removed his hat, and performed an exaggerated bow before resuming his performance. The farm boy, lacking a hat, returned the gesture with a bow and salute. The manor house was brightly lit, allowing the farm boy to see clearly inside. He observed a grand room filled with lavishly dressed people. Women wore floor-length gowns adorned with jewelry, while men sported ankle-length coats and swords. Their attire included breeches tied below the knee, long stockings, and shoes with gold or silver buckles. Some guests danced, others drank. In one corner, musicians played violins and a harp. Wigged footmen in long red coats circulated with trays of fine glassware and drinks. The farm boy was struck by the apparent wealth of the gathering. His attention was drawn to two well-dressed gentlemen by a bay window illuminated by moonlight. They appeared to be in a heated dispute. One threw his drink in the other's face, prompting the offended party to remove a glove and slap his companion. The music and dancing abruptly stopped as all eyes turned to the confrontation. Anticipating violence, the farm boy retreated further into the shadows. He wasn't frightened, but rather mesmerized by the scene. It was then that he began to realize he had somehow stumbled into a different era. A young man, appearing to be about 20, stormed out of the manor in a rage. He approached the fountain, then abruptly turned back, re-entering the house. Inside, he removed his coat, drew his sword, and tested its edge. His opponent emerged, accompanied by an elderly gentleman. This older man was tall and thin, dressed in a long black coat and tall hat, carrying a jeweled walking stick that glinted in the moonlight. Other guests gathered on the lawn, forming a semicircle. Some women held handkerchiefs to their eyes, anticipating the impending drama. The two young men faced each other on the lawn. They saluted with their swords, and when the elderly man dropped a white handkerchief, the duel began. Both demonstrated skilled swordsmanship, exchanging thrusts, parries, and strikes. As the fight progressed, dark stains appeared on their clothing, evidence of wounds inflicted. After about 10 minutes, the man who had first exited the manor seemed to gain the upper hand. However, as he attempted a finishing thrust, he slipped. His opponent seized the opportunity, driving his sword into the first man's shoulder, ending the duel. Two women rushed to aid the wounded man. Amid general distress, he was quickly carried into the manor. By this time, it was well past midnight. The shadows lengthened and darkened. The air grew chilly, and the moon began to fade. The farm boy, having retreated further into the shadows, heard the approach of horses and wheels. The injured man reappeared at the manor's entrance, his arm heavily bandaged. He was assisted into a coach, joined by two ladies and the elderly man with the walking stick. The coach then departed at great speed, disappearing down the drive. The observer watched as the manor's lights were extinguished. He could barely make out several coaches arriving, perhaps 6 in total. Passengers boarded quietly and swiftly, signaling the party's end. Suddenly, a mist began to rise from the ground and seep from the surrounding vegetation, engulfing everything. The now frightened lad decided it was time to leave. He glimpsed the last coach departing, but realized he had waited too long. An eerie silence fell over the area as the mist thickened, reducing visibility to mere inches. Panic set in. He ran blindly into the undergrowth, stumbling over obstacles and into stinging nettles. Tearing through brambles, he shouted until his voice grew hoarse. He ran in circles, lost in the increasingly dense fog and growing darkness. His heart pounded fiercely. As he neared despair, he heard an early milk lorry heading towards Blandford. This sound renewed his hope and energy. He fought his way through the remaining vegetation and fog, moving towards the noise. As it grew louder, he quickened his pace until he finally broke through to the open road just as the lorry approached. The driver, recognizing the boy, stopped and inquired about his disheveled state and late-night presence. Together they retrieved the boy's bicycle, loaded it onto the lorry, and set off for Thompson Farm. En route, the shaken lad fabricated a story about falling into a ditch and losing consciousness. Back at the farm, where a search party was about to be dispatched, he received a stern reprimand. The boy never shared his true experience, certain no one would believe him. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday, he revisited the site. He found the remains of the manor house, now in ruins. A tree grew through the collapsed roof, windows were mere holes. The front porch had crumbled, and the drive was reduced to a cart track. The once manicured lawn was overgrown with gorse and nettles, and the fountain had almost vanished completely. Throughout his life, the boy-turned-man never found an explanation for his extraordinary experience. However, as time passed, he occasionally encountered others who reported strange occurrences near the abandoned and decaying manor house. Despite the passage of 8 decades, every detail of that mysterious night remained vivid in his memory, undiminished by time. Since the 17th century, a haunting spectacle has captivated witnesses in the rolling countryside between Winterborne St. Martin, nowadays commonly called Martinstown, and the ancient hill fort of Maiden Castle. The first documented sighting in 1662 marked the beginning of a centuries-long phenomenon that continues to this day. Observers describe a chilling scene: rows of phantom soldiers, their forms translucent and otherworldly, marching in perfect formation across the peaceful meadows. These spectral troops move with grim purpose, their feet making no sound as they tread upon the grass. Witnesses report a sense of timelessness about the apparitions, as if they are glimpsing a moment eternally repeating from some long-ago battle. As suddenly as they appear, these silent warriors fade from sight, leaving behind only questions and a lingering sense of awe. The quaint village of Winterborne Monkton lies close to the A354 road between the county town Dorchester, 1.5 miles to the north, and the coastal resort Weymouth, 5 miles to the south. Found near the southern Winterborne River. In the 18th century, it harbored a secret, a thriving smuggling operation. The cunning smugglers, determined to protect their illicit trade, devised an ingenious plan to ward off prying customs officers. They would don eerie, ghostly disguises, haunting the village streets and surrounding countryside, effectively terrifying any officials who dared investigate. Their ruse worked brilliantly, keeping their lucrative business safe for years. However, since the 1980s, a chilling twist has emerged. Locals and visitors alike have reported spectral sightings that seem to defy explanation. Misty figures in antiquated clothing are seen skulking through the area, vanishing into thin air when approached. These apparitions bear an uncanny resemblance to the long-dead smugglers, apparently still acting out their centuries-old deception. Finally, we have a story located near Winterborne, Herringston, which neighbours Winterborne, Moncton. On a misty evening in the late 1800s, a tragic event unfolded along the modern A354 at Moncton Hill that lies between the two villages. A horse-drawn coach carrying unsuspecting passengers veered off the road and plunged into a deep pool of water. The terrified screams of both humans and animals pierced the night as the coach, its occupants, and the team of horses were all swallowed by the murky depths. In the years since, numerous witnesses have reported a chilling phenomenon: the ghostly reenactment of this horrific accident. On certain nights, particularly when fog shrouds the area, travelers claim to hear the sound of galloping hooves, panicked neighing, and desperate cries for help. Some even describe seeing spectral figures and the outline of a phantom coach as it careens off the road, only to vanish into thin air moments later. And so ends our retelling of some of the ghostly goings-on that surround these unique villages deep in the county. If you enjoyed these eerie reports from Dorset, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future videos delving into our ghost stories and hauntings. I love reading your comments, so let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover. Until next time, thanks for watching and farewell.